Thank you for joining us for another powerful week of conversations with a king. I have someone on the show today that is going to bless your mind. He's all about mind, body, soul, and living intentionally and being intentional about everything that you do. So I want you guys to buckle up your seatbelts because you're now plugged in, tuned in, tapped in to Outside the Box. Yes, and we're back, and I'm so excited to welcome today's guest. He is a life coach. He's a massage therapist. He does so many things, but I don't want to put the wagon before the horse because I want to give him an opportunity to tell you everything he does. So y'all give it up for Mr. Rickey Getwood Jr.
Oh, I love the
audience. Awesome. So, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, obviously.
Again.
I know, right?
I had you like 4 years ago. Can you believe that?
It seemed like it was forever, but also it was a short amount of time, too. So
something just happened.
Yeah, life is happening.
Look, I started our podcast, and now I got my home production studio.
And now you see why I was here. I was like, yeah, you hit me. I'm like, of course.
Gotta start somewhere.
No, you doing your thing.
So, it's all about that mindset shift.
Let's talk about it.
Yes, talk about it.
Yes.
So I know who you are.
Right.
A few people that's watching me, but we are all over. So I want you to tell our listeners and our watchers who you are and what all you do.
Right. Well, I do a plethora of things. I always like to lead with, I am whatever people think that I am, because there's lots who says that if a person can define who they are, they really don't know who they are, right? So I like to leave the impression with what you think that I am. Now, as far as my titles are concerned, yes, I'm a life coach, I'm a personal trainer, I'm a massage therapist, I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a musician. All these things that make me just allow me to show my creation, my creative ability. That's just really who I am. So I'm all things mindset, body, and wholeness and wellness. So anything to do with your mindset, anything with your body, becoming a better version of yourself, that's who I am. That's the image that I give off to people. So I want people to know me of that, and how your perception of me is, it all depends on how a relationship is.
Okay, I loved it. I loved it. Now, if you don't mind me asking, what is your current status as far as relationships?
Oh, I am happily engaged. I'm happily still engaged, and I still call her my wife, even though we're not legally married, and that's a whole nother, we could tap into that later. But I look at life completely different. We could tap into that later. I look at the things like, I don't need a title to have the commitment. You know what I'm saying? I'm committed to her. That's still my wife. That's my partner. So yes, I am happily engaged.
I love that. And the fact that you're not the only king that has said that on this season.
Really?
I don't want to put nothing out there too fast.
You're gonna talk about it,
The fact that it's not just women walking as wives, it's men walking as husbands. And I always say the I do actually happens before the I do. Because you have to know what you're signing up for.
100%.
The engagement is the intention to really marry, but that's when you really kind of know, like, you have to see your partner in all these different phases. You have to know, you know, how they handle money, how they handle depression, how they handle stagnancy. All those things matter, and so.
You know, when you said something, most people don't realize that. And I like to harp on certain things. When we say I'm engaged.
Yes.
The word engagement, we just kind of fly over it. Like, when you're engaged, like, you're literally engaging in that person's life.
Yes.
Everything you just named, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, I'm engaged in your life to decide if I can spend the rest of my life with you, before I go legally and make the commitment. But also, like I said, the commitment is supposed to be made before God, before you do it before the legal system.
Right.
That's a whole other conversation.
Because, I feel like when you make that commitment before God,
Yeah.
that's where the marriage is.
It's already there.
Because the piece of
Yeah.
paper don't hold you accountable.
That paper don't mean
it
that.
doesn't.
Look.
That's just a way for them to tax you, baby. That's it.
Look, that's pushing a whole other tax bracket. That's it. Like, oh, you qualify for this because you got, that
that's
has nothing
it.
to do
That's how they
with,
can monitor you and your spouse money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
that's it. Yeah.
But the marriage is definitely not the piece of paper. And that's what people don't realize, you know.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of marriage, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
As a man, because I have said that marriage isn't a goal for me.
Right.
And it does not mean that I don't want to be married.
Okay.
I think every woman, to a certain degree, wants a partner that they can do life with.
Right.
Whatever title they want to give it, marriage, whatever. Partner, life partner, right?
Okay, right.
So for a woman to say marriage isn't the goal, is that off-putting as a man to hear a woman say that?
That's very rare. It's very rare to hear a woman say that marriage isn't the goal. Because I think traditionally we've been taught that that's what women want. They need the title to feel validated, right? And so when a woman doesn't say, let's just say marriage is not the goal, and then it's like, well, what do you want? Because go ahead.
Let me shed some light on that. As a sister, let me speak
please
up.
Talk about it.
When a woman says marriage is not the goal, do not misconstrue that as she's wasting your time.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Because when I say marriage is not a goal, yes, I want to be married.
Right.
But the goal is to have a healthy, whole, trustworthy, emotionally intelligent partner.
Gotcha.
I need my partner to be safe. So often, because I have been divorced, okay? And that's why I say that.
Yeah.
So when, being a divorcee, wanting to be remarried eventually, I understand that it's not the title of marriage that I'm looking for. That's not my goal. Because sometimes people can show up for you until you say I do. And then after you locked in, then you start seeing they really don't. But they needed that validation, and that happens in women dynamics. They do everything, and men dynamics too. They in relationship dynamics, let me say that. People show up as the best version of themselves in the beginning. And, my mama used to always say, all broom sweep clean, which means that at first, when you first get that broom, they're not leaving no trash behind. After you use that broom for a while, you start seeing it's leaving a little trash behind. And sometimes you have to go through things with that person to know that if you could deal with their trash.
100%. And even try not to go like philosophy speaking, but a lot of times the words that we say don't really mean what they're actually meaning right now, right? Even when we say marriage, like the root word actually means to merge. Like you're merging things together. So like you're engaging and merging, right? So we're saying, I want to get married. It's like, do you even understand what the word marriage means? Where did the word come from? It's
I believe that it's like to die to yourself, to live for your partner. Now you live for God, of course, but really it's to die to yourself to live for your partner. So you have to know that when you get married that you love this person enough that you be willing to give your life for them. Because essentially that's exactly what you're doing when you say I do. You're giving your life for them. You're making space for them in your life. And sometimes when you meet a person, they might not necessarily fit in your life, but if you love them enough, you will accommodate their emotional needs and the needs for your presence. So you'll move things around. Now I'm not saying to lose yourself in a relationship. So often I think that partners that have codependency issues may lose themselves and their partner to the point where they can't function without them. And that's really draining on the other partner.
Exactly. This is why I'm big on be selfish enough to be yourself before you merge yourself with somebody else. You have to literally be full of yourself. Be so full of yourself that when you get with somebody else,
they're getting your overflow.
I mean, come on, man. You know what I mean? But the problem is most people aren't full of themselves. When we hear the word full of yourself, you think selfish, right? Like, no, you need to be selfish. You have to be completely full of yourself, fully aware of yourself. So when you have more than enough, the person that comes into your life can accept the overflow. And they're not trying to drain you and take you and change you. It's like, no, like I need to merge your overflow with my overflow so we can have more than enough. You know what I'm saying? Instead of like, oh, I just want to be married. For what?
Right. So I just wanted to clarify that when I say marriage isn't a goal, yes,
Right.
As a woman, we want to be married, we want a partner.
Right.
But the dating climate makes it, you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I just don't feel like that it should be a timetable on, when a partner gets married. Like
Right.
you and your partner, you guys are a dynamic duo.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Very inspiring couple. And I love the fact that you say, hey, in my mind, she's my wife now, even though the paper's not there. I feel like, having that partnership is a great balance to add to your life. It adds to your life.
Yeah. If it's not, my biggest thing is this, and like I said, I've been divorced, I've been married. I understand what it means to be depleted from somebody else, and they just draining you 100%. And I always say somebody doesn't. Well, it's good to have somebody to add to your life, but also to make you make sense of your life. Because see, sometimes people don't have to necessarily add to you. Like, I'm the type of person where I'm very self-aware. I know what's going on, right? I just need somebody she helps me, allow me to be myself. That's completely different than like somebody trying to come in and fix you and push you where you're supposed to be. And see, most men and women, it's not a sexist show, but most people want somebody to come in and add and push them where they're supposed to be. It's like, well, if you are already who you are, you need somebody to allow you to be who you are so you can continue to grow in the person that you currently are. You know what I mean? So many times we get in relationships where it's like, fix me, help me be me.
I feel like when you attach too much of yourself to the person that you're with,
right.
God forbid anything happens, but if you happen to lose that person, again, you lose yourself.
Yes.
Because you're so...
Yeah, you're so codependent on that person's existence.
Yes.
And
it's like going through the dark night of the soul. If you've ever been through it, I know. I've been there. You know what I'm saying?
I've been there.
I've been there where it's like, oh my God. And I think that so often in relationships, they idealize... what that relationship should look like instead of accepting the totality of what it actually is.
I always look at it like, if you look at your relationship like life, and it's going to sound very almost contradictory to everything I just said, right? But hear me clearly, right? Because if you look at life that happens in seasons, right? The summer, spring, winter, fall, right? Things blossom, things fall off. Some things come back, some things don't come back. You know what I'm saying? And relationships are the same exact way. That may be for a season. And once that thing fall off, don't try to root it back and make it grow back. It's over. It's done. Move on to the next season. Like, you know what I mean? So many times people get stuck in that season. It's like, I got to make this thing work. It's done. Let it go. Life is moving and you're not moving with life. But that's a whole nother conversation. So
yes. Now we know that you have, like you say, all these different things that you do.
Yeah.
Right? So equally yoked is being so important and can be a deciding factor in the success of a business or a partnership. What are your thoughts on that?
Equally yoked has a lot to do with, again, I'm the type of person where you don't necessarily have to match my energy. You just have to understand it.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
If you understand it, I'm fine with that, because not everybody's going to be on your same exact level. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, people know I've started and stopped multiple businesses, right? I'm a fire starter. Like, whatever you say, let's go, let's do. Everybody's not like that.
Right.
And you may drain the other person if you're expecting them to be just like you. Like, hey, let's start this business, let's go do this. That's not them. But if they can understand it and not stop it, then we're on the same page.
I'm big on that because, people don't realize, okay, you're also a bodybuilder. We didn't say that. But people don't realize that bodybuilding takes so much out of someone that's in training, right?
Right.
They see the show, but they don't know what goes on behind the scenes in the preparation for the show.
Yeah.
And so just me supporting my partner who's in bodybuilding as well, I understand.
Yes.
So I'm a busybody. Listen, I'm making CMOS, I'm writing shows, I'm directing shows, I'm promoting, I'm doing all these different things. I don't make it his responsibility to be everywhere I am.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As long as you know I'm coming back at the end of the day.
That's what I'm saying. So like, you're full of yourself.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Like, in a good way. In healthy ways.
Yeah. It doesn't mean you have to be a bodybuilder. It doesn't mean you have to do his whole routine. You know what I'm saying? It just means that I understand what you're doing.
Because I'm going to tell you, I'm not the gym going girl all the time. I have 4 jobs a month.
Right.
So, you know, I work out every day, showing up for work in my mind.
Right.
Mental gymnastics. Okay. Don't worry, I'm going to get in the gym.
Hey.
But sometimes I'll walk the block a few times,
Yeah.
you know, unbig my back a little bit, you know.
Hey, if that's your work, that's your work. And I always think, like, if your partner accepts you for who you are and what you're doing, and they don't have these unrealistic expectations, great. It's a great relationship. It's the people who have real unrealistic expectations who want their partner to do exactly. Nah, you didn't realize that person was already doing their thing,
Right.
and you're trying to change them to do your thing. Now you got a problem.
Now I do want to segue into business ownership.
Gotcha.
Like, so you started multiple businesses, you've done things, and you know, I always say, hey, you don't fail until you quit trying.
Facts.
You know what I'm
100%,
saying?
'cause I felt
So
that.
it might not work, but something gonna stick. Something is definitely going to stick.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on imposter syndrome? Because a lot of men deal with that,
right.
in secret.
You know, honestly, really and truthfully, I've looked at imposter syndrome like this. It's hard to be an imposter if you're doing a thing that you think you can't do. You're not an imposter, you're actually doing it. You know what I'm saying? So your expectations may be unrealistic, but even for myself, I went through that maybe 6 years ago, right? When I started my personal training business, I started my massage therapy business, I felt like an imposter. Like, oh, I'm not as good as such and such. I'm comparing myself to other people, you know what I mean? And then I'm a part of a whole lot of mentorship groups, and that's one thing I'm big on is mindset. I'm constantly surrounding myself with inspirational people, motivational people, and I listen to videos all day, every day. And something that just stuck to me one day was like, actually Sadhguru said, is that how do you fake the thing that you're actually doing?
Right.
Like how
if you're doing it, you can't be faking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like I want to be a business owner. It's like
own a business.
You're actually owning a business. So are you faking it? No, I'm actually doing it.
Right.
Now, here's where the fake part comes in. You feel like an imposter. When you start lying to people about how much money you're making and you putting these outfits on, making it seem like you're something that you're actually not.
Right.
Now you're faking it. You know, I get the whole fake it till you make it thing, right?
Or if you're just skipping the work. Because the thing about it is people can see, okay, on the outside, you know, I've gotten that. Like, oh, no, she got a studio, she got this, she got that.
Yeah.
But they don't see that I'm in here steaming curtains.
You're doing the work.
Painting the art that's going in there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to write the shows, trying to get the guests that I want to have on here. Like, it's other work that goes into this, not to mention the overhead costs. You know what I'm saying? And just having the desire to want to have a staff where I can position my staff in better places, you know, to think, I got a staff. And I love them. I love my guys. Like, we like a family. And so that's like a dream for me. You know what I'm saying? And so when guys, you know, I meet men, and, you know, they deal with I've dealt with imposter syndrome. They deal with it, but they have the potential. And I think that's where it kicks in because they know they can, but they trying to skip the work.
The problem, I'll tell you, the real problem with most men is, all right, the real problem with most men, and this is proven and true a million times, right? They keep comparing themselves to that 1%, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you compare the high value man, and I hate that term now, so I pause on saying it because it's annoying now. High value. So the high value man that everybody looks up to is typically the 1, maybe 5% of men in the world, right? These are the multi-millionaires, serial entrepreneurs. You compare yourself to that 1%, right? And actually another, Alex Hormozy said this, and he was like, you know what, men who compare themselves to multi-millionaires, right, will more than likely never get to that point, right? More than likely they won't ever get to that point. But you don't realize you don't have to make $1 million to be successful. There are people who are making $500,000 and still massively successful, right? But if you're like, oh, I got to make $1 million or, you know, 10 million to be considered 10X and qualified or validated, that's not you.
But you know, that's another thing. I'm glad you brought it up as a high value man.
Right.
Do you think that social stigma has messed up the definition of what high value man stands for?
100%.
I personally do.
Yeah.
Because you can have a man that is a millionaire and he's not high value.
And he's treating people like shit.
He's treating people very badly.
Right,
you know, so just because you're a millionaire or just because you have money and businesses and have all the fluff, the external stuff, things that's outside of yourself, that doesn't make you high value.
No.
What makes a man high value, I believe, is his level of empathy, his level of emotional intelligence, the amount of safety that he provides for his loved ones and his family, his want to be able to create provision.
Exactly.
I also think as a woman that, you know, all this social, well, what does he bring to the table and what does she bring to the table? I'm so tired of that conversation. I just want to turn the table over.
Flip it over,
you know what I'm saying? Just flip the damn table over. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that social media has people so detached from reality. Like, boo, I don't wake up like this every morning. I might have some, what they call those rollers that we use? You know, the rod rollers.
And all other stuff,
and you know, my son say, Mama, you walk around here looking like a bouquet because my bonnet had flowers on it. That's me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes people fall for the snapshot, that perfect picture. You know?
It's clickbaiting. It's 100% clickbaiting. And here's the thing about valuing, right? If you look at the word value, you know what I'm saying, everything has a value on a particular shelf. Look at a store, right? They base the value on the necessity for people's requirements. Okay, like everybody wants that, so now it's high value, right? But the real truth is that if you gauge yourself based on, I tell people this, like rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, okay? Overall, like how much money you make, how good do you treat your family, how good do you feel about yourself, right? So if you're like, you know what, I'm about an 8, okay? I'll give myself an 8 because I leave myself room for error. Like I'll give myself an 8 no matter what because I got 2%, 2 more percent before I get to 100. I'm okay with that. So that means that I can help everybody from 1 to 7. My value is pretty high, okay? Now 8 to 9, 10, I can't deal with those people, but everybody underneath that, I can help you. And then your value is really based on your ability, like you said earlier, to be emotionally available, okay? And the people that you surround yourself, the people who you're around, they're the one that's gonna value you. You know what I'm saying? But if you keep being around these people who are like, you're not good enough, of course you're not gonna be valued. You know what I mean? But the people that's around you, like, no, you're a high valued person. Has nothing to do with your money. Has nothing to do with your ability to whip somebody's ass. It's like,
yes,
you know what
I've been to funerals where it looked like a Million Man March. And I've been to funerals where you don't even know if they made the announcement that this person passed away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so my thing is, when I pass away, when it's my time, my goal is to be so impactful and give back to my community so much for my work on this earth to be so impactful that it looks like the Million Man March.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, that people are standing in line to, you know, be able to say, hey, how, you know, they don't have to do it while I'm living. You know what I'm saying? Because your legacy is how people feel about you when you're gone.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I always say that it's not how you live, but it's how you remembered.
How you remembered. So Guru said something that's very amazing. He was like, and this is why I had to reprogram, my company's called Reprogram for a reason.
We're finna talk about that in just a second.
I had to reprogram my whole way of understanding how life works, right? Because really and truthfully, here's the truth. Like you said something that's very key. You'll never fully see your legacy. Like you won't ever see it. Okay, you'll get to a certain point where you're like, I did A, B, C, D, F, G. I set up these studios. I have these people out there. But once it continues and it builds and grows and you build to set the system up the right way, you'll never see its magnitude. You're not going to physically be here to see it, right? So your legacy, right, you won't ever be able to see it. So stop having the expectation of, oh, I got to do great things. Just plant the seed and just let that joker grow. So that keeps your stress level low and keeps your expectation level low. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I don't have to like see the trillions of dollars and all the people. It's like, it's going to happen when you're not here.
Just be impactful.
That's it.
That's the main thing.
People gonna see it and they gonna know it.
So I was gonna ask you, now personal growth is both a process of understanding yourself and pushing yourself to reach your highest potential. It means always asking yourself who you are becoming and how you plan to get there. So RPMG, did I say that right?
RPGM.
RPGM, I got it mixed up. That's reprogram, if you say it really quickly. Can you tell us about that and what it has to do with mindset?
Oh, 100%. So, funny true story behind that, you know, because I started off as a motivational speaker. And RPGM is actually my name. Rickey Paul Getwood motivates. People always say, oh, he's a motivational speaker, so RPGM. But I was like, actually, I started reprogramming my mind. So you take reprogram and take the RPGM out. that's technically reprogramming. So for me, I grew up from Port Arthur, Texas, poverty mindset. I hate to say the typical story, single mother household, dad wasn't around, you know what I mean? I was around nothing but poverty, you know, so I had the poverty mindset. I never seen real growth. I never seen anybody be married for a long time. My grandparents stayed married, you know, up until they were, 55 years of a marriage, right? Outside of that, everybody I know is divorced, bad relationships, right? I wasn't around enough people to get my mindset into a place of success.
Okay.
So once I had the opportunity to go to LA, hang out with some other people, your environment changes everything.
Correct.
Okay. I got to LA and I was like, oh, this is how people live? Okay, cool. I had to figure out, how do I reprogram my brain to start thinking like this, which is why I became obsessed.
To tell you that you deserve this.
Yeah, it's like,
Because sometimes if all we know is lack, we can't see outside the four walls.
Right.
And traveling has been a good way for me to reprogram my mindset.
That's all I needed.
Just the exposure of things that wasn't necessarily tangible to me. Because almost you can't want what you don't know exists.
You don't know it's there. And like, obviously when I grew up, there was no social media, there was no cell phones, so I can look and see, success. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, so I couldn't watch TV for a long time.
I know.
My
grandmother was apostolic, so they basically right here.
That's what I'm saying. So
no secular music.
No secular music.
We just doing church every day of the week.
Right. So later in life, like maybe as a teenager, I started watching television. Then I started seeing things like Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous. It used to come on MTV, and I was like, wait, people actually like really live like that? So that kind of got my brain going. But it wasn't until I almost committed suicide, went through stressful situations, bad relationships, and I was like, no, one or two things are going to happen. Either I'm going to take myself out, or I'm going to reprogram my brain to continue to live the best life possible. So I just decided to just reprogram over and over and over. So when I have a negative thought, how do you reprogram that? It's very simple. You do the exact opposite thing of what you're thinking about. So if you're thinking about being broke, think about being rich.
That part.
You know what I mean?
Now, you mentioned earlier in the show that you were raised by your mom. Now, do you have any children?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Look, I started early.
He's like, oh, yeah, I
started way early.
Yeah, let me find out you was mannish.
Look, let me tell you something. I say there's all of this stuff is in my book, by the way. A lot of this stuff is in my book. But here's the thing. It's not that my dad wasn't around. After they got divorced when I was like 12, right? Okay. And I talk about this often, is that I understand now that he didn't know how to be a man. You know what I'm saying? Just the way he was raised. So after they broke up, my mom became a single mother. We moved out and moved into the projects. And like I said, I hate to say the typical story, but she did the best she could, obviously, but that was my thing too. It's like, I realized that my dad wasn't the man that I knew he could have been, I should have been. My grandfather, after my grandmother died, he kind of just lost his mind. So I didn't really have any male figures around, you know what I'm saying? So my mom did the best that she could, keep us in church.
Now, how did that affect your mental state as far as your parenting style?
So, saying that to say is like, I had kids early. Once my parents divorced, and you're raised in the church, and I hate to say I was a preacher's kid, so, but, PKs, we kind of act up every now and then. But anyway, so I had my first kid at 18, right? And second kid at 20. And so all three of my biological kids are all 2 years apart, right? I went on the verge of trying to figure out how to become a man, okay? So when I had my first son, 18, May 28th, graduated. I was graduating. Our graduation was May 27th, and we graduated May 20th. He was born May 28th. I turned down my football scholarships, right? Yeah, I had a football scholarship to go to McNeese, and I was so caught up on like trying to become a better dad.
You wanted to be present. You didn't want to be
I didn't
off
want to be
going
gone.
to school.
Yeah, so I even turned my football scholarship down. I didn't go to the military. I just went into straight work mode. That's all I knew. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause my grandfather, like I said, he did an amazing job up until he kind of.
Do you believe that that decision was made in fear of not repeating
100%.
your father's mistakes? Because in hindsight, and just as a woman, like it probably would have made sense for you to go off to college then, because you would have been able to create even more provision for the sacrifice of, I can't be here with you these first 2 or 3 years like I want to, but for what I'm sacrificing, I'm going to be able to take care of you for life. You understand what I'm saying?
But you also got to realize, like I said earlier, I was around a lot of poverty mindset people who didn't have that go get it mindset. You know what I'm saying? So even though.
And we were young.
You know,
because I mean, I had my first son at 16.
See, you know, and I was my mom had me at 17.
Yeah.
You
my
know
son
what I
gonna
mean?
be 29.
See,
yeah.
my oldest son is 25. You know what I'm saying? So
we're getting up there.
We're getting up there, you know. And so I didn't have that. Hey, you could still go to the military. You could still go to school. Because my grandfather was just militant. You know, he had a 6th grade education. You know what I'm saying? After he got drafted to the military, he came back out. He started working at the refinery, and that's all he knew was work. So from birth up until like 13, 14, he was like, man, gotta work, man, gotta work, man, gotta. That's why I work so hard now. But that was programmed into my mind. It's just like, it wasn't go to school. It wasn't go to the military. It wasn't get your finances right. It wasn't get your credit right. It was like, you have to work.
Speaking of finances,
Yeah.
financial literacy is not something that's really spoken of,
Right.
and especially in like the black household.
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We don't. They don't talk about it in school. Money management is like,
Nope.
okay, your kids get grown at 18, you kick them out. And
Yep.
so often, I see parents, I don't do it, but so often parents put their kids out before they're equipped to do life. They just exist, go
Yeah.
to school, break a few rules,
Yeah.
and then they turn 18. It's like, okay, now you got to do life.
Right.
But they don't know money management.
Right.
They don't, and a lot of times I can't blame it on the parents because they can't provide what they don't have themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like my mom, she did the very best she could.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Good, bad, indifferent, whatever.
Right.
She did the best that she could with the tools that she had, and it wasn't until my kids got older and I realized that the gap in parenting between my youngest son
Right.
and my oldest 2 boys, because there was an age gap there.
Yeah.
But I had way more experience by the time I got to him.
Exactly.
But there's no book on how to be a
No.
parent. I was a mother before I was a woman.
Right.
And then really we end up repeating the same mistakes our parents made, even though we try to avoid it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a,
Yeah.
I hate to say generational curse. I like to use the word generational pattern because we can say,
Yeah.
okay, well, my grandparents didn't do this, or my mom didn't do this, or this happened, you know.
Yeah.
So we have to be the change that we wish to see.
Exactly.
You know what I'm
I always say
saying?
there was like, we say the word generational curse and it sounds so harsh, right? I get it, especially growing up in church, but it's just habits. That's why I'm big on reprogramming your habits.
It's just like what we eat. If we grew up, I mean, I grew up eating rice with everything,
Yeah.
beans, rice,
Gravy,
mashed
and-
potatoes,
yeah.
macaroni and cheese, all that starch,
All that-
cornbread,
yeah.
and then wonder why we all got diabetes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we grew up, that was our culture.
Exactly.
You see what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
And then, you know, so y'all, this the diet.
This-
It's not,
yeah.
it's not genetic. It's the food you grew up eating that
Right.
you still in there cooking.
Look,
put the pork chops down.
Put it down. Look, I always say like, there's a funny thing is like, people say it just runs in our family. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, the problem is nobody runs in the family. That's the biggest problem. It's like, it runs in our, no, nobody's running, nobody's exercising, everybody's doing the same thing. So that's the habit that you picked up, you know what I mean?
Now, I wanted to talk to you about mental health.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on breaking the stigma around men's mental health? Because so often they can't,
Yeah.
you know, they don't have nowhere. The women got all the
Oh, y'all got all the
domestic
outsourcing.
violence
Yeah.
hotlines and stuff, but men go through domestic
Man,
violence too.
A whole lot. And I've been through it on both sides, believe it or not, emotionally and physically, you know what I'm saying? I was emasculated back in, when I was 32 years old, you know what I'm saying, from my ex, who literally tried to just, I like to say for lack of a better term, take my nuts. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Kick me out of the, took my clothes, threw my clothes out saying I wasn't gonna be shit, all this other stuff. And I was like, okay, God, you really tried to just like take my manhood, right? Say I'm gonna be just like your dad and all the other stuff. So at that time, like I said, nobody was talking about mental health at all. Still to this day, you got.
It's not.
Yeah.
Men don't have a safe
No.
space. It's a safe space.
I'm
My
good.
brother.
Yeah.
It's a
Thank
safe
you, thank
space.
you.
Yeah.
And I will say that now, there's like Jay, for instance. He's a therapist. He's coming out. He has a platform for men. It's there, but it's not accepted. Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. There's a lot of platforms out there nowadays for men to actually sit and talk, but because it's not natural. It doesn't come natural for men to sit and have a conversation, because as soon as you open up and start crying, for lack of better terms, other men want to say you a little bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you over there crying for? Because we were taught that.
But it's okay for a man to cry. Do you know that you have to let those emotions out some kind of way?
Yeah. But let me tell you, I'm gonna cut you off on purpose, right? It sounds great, but for men, when you I'll say this, and this is not a sexist thing, but it is a realistic thing. When a woman tells a man that, only thing we hear is, you want me to be weak in front of you, right? And we immediately shut down. You know what I'm saying? Because we're taught that we have to be strong, we have to be stoic, we have to have our shit put together, right? So if a woman says that, it's different. So this is why I do what I do. When you have to hear another man tell you in an intentional way, hey bro, I need you to take 10 minutes to let that shit out and then move on, right? Because when it comes from a woman, all we hear is, I want you to just be all over me and crying and you know what I'm saying? But that's what's been programmed. Now don't get me wrong, there are some men who are unnecessarily extremely emotional, and we just like, bro,
a little bit too emotional.
You're a little too emotional, you know what I'm saying? And I get it, because I went through that phase as well too. And I hate to say it, but it's very true. When you are mainly raised by your mother, all you get is emotions. You don't get the stoic, hardcore man and say, hey man, sit your ass down and stop crying. You don't get that. You are your environment. So if you're raised with an emotional woman, not all women are emotional, there's some women who are hardcore and say, hey boy, sit your ass down. But for the most part of it, when you have a woman who's unhealed, right, and she's emotional and she's angry, her emotions are coming out, and her son,
she has no emotional regulation, so the son she raised is not going to have either.
And then you wonder why he's emotional all over the place, and you say he may have his stuff together financially, he may look good, but mentally he is so messed up. And you can't tell that emotionally unstable man who has himself together, hey man, come down and get your mind right.
Right, or I think you need some therapy.
He gonna be like, nah, I got
What do you think? Why do you think that men get so offended if therapy is a suggestion to them?
Well, number one, like I said earlier, it kind of depends on who it's coming from. Because we have this trust factor that's already like cutting people off. We cutting people off no matter what, you know what I mean? So if a person who's a valid person, you know, somebody like myself or somebody who else is there who's been through it says, hey bro, you need to get yourself checked for real. And I'm gonna tell you why, because I know exactly how you feel, I know exactly how you thinking, I know what the outcome is, right? It makes more sense, right? But if a person who hasn't tapped into, here's the thing, if the person who hasn't tapped into that person's trust factor or their emotions, we immediately shut it off. Like, I don't trust you. Like, why would I even listen to you to tell me go do therapy for what? Who are you? What you doing? What's your thing? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
so you trying to make me seem like I'm weak? We go into defense mode because we're conquerors. You know, we're protectors.
But
right?
I think that for me, I can't say for all women, but if a woman comes to you and say, hey babe, I think you should go to therapy, that's not saying something is wrong with you. That's saying that, hey, I acknowledge that you're dealing with something that you might not feel comfortable talking to me about, but you deserve a safe space to be able to let it out.
It takes the right woman to say that.
You know, but she has to be able to articulate it in a way that it hits right. You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad you said that. See, the way you said it, and if you could say it all over again and say it just like that, trust me, I promise you, and I talk to a lot of women about this too, it's not what you say, it's the way you say it. You got to come at me with, use your finesse, like finesse that thing. You know what I'm saying? But
someone who is not willing to deal with their own reflection, they will get mad at that mirror.
Oh yeah.
No matter how soft you put
100%.
it. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So you have to have some level of self-awareness and some level of safety with your partner to understand that whatever they say to you is not coming from a vicious or vindictive space. But if your mindset is not in the right place, you're going to project how you feel about yourself on your partner. And a lot of people don't talk about that. You know, a lot of men, you know, if they don't feel like they're enough, of course they're not going to tell a woman that, right? But if they're sizing themselves up, the imposter syndrome, to other men, or if they're looking at that 1%, right? Or social media and all this, they can talk themselves out of a good woman.
100%.
Thinking that they have to have all of this external things because, you know, let's just say, okay, women, we making money these days, okay? We doing our damn thing. And if the women with money felt like they couldn't love a man unless he made as much money as her, a lot of them would be single.
They will.
You know what I'm saying? And that goes back to what you bring to the table, because sometimes you can't meet your partner equally in the same capacity, but you have to make up for it in other ways.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So, for instance, this man may make a lot of money, right? But I may not make as much money as him.
Right.
But what do I bring to the table other than hot meals and open legs?
Yeah.
And a pretty face and salute, what else?
Yeah.
Well, you have to be able, a good woman should be able to cultivate whatever provision that you provide.
100%.
So
Yeah.
you might have the money, but she might have the brains
Exactly.
to cultivate that thing.
Exactly.
She may know how to go and plant the seeds and work the rooms that get you at the tables that you couldn't get to before.
And that's when, again, if the woman knows herself and the man allows the woman to facilitate his skills, then it works perfectly.
Yes.
I'm going to say something earlier that I think it helps out a lot of people because it helps me out as well, too. When a woman is trying to tell their man to go get therapy, right? If you know your man's past, right? And it's something that I learned in my therapy and in self-awareness. If your mother has ever said something to you degrading as a kid, like, you remind me of your daddy, right? Or they say something like, you just like your dad, or you look like him. In the back of a little boy's mind, and out here, we remember that, right? So even if you come at me with the finesse and the nice stuff, hey, you need to go to therapy, only thing we hear in the back of our head is, you remind me of your daddy and you're not good enough. You know what I'm saying? So you have to know what your spouse has been through and figure out what their triggers are. If you don't know their triggers, I don't care how nice you say it.
Right.
You have to understand, okay, this is a trigger for him. He needs to get some outside help in order for me to be able to relate to him, if you want to stay in a relationship.
Right.
Because no matter how well you say it, no matter how good you put it, he's going to look at that as a trigger. And he has to get past that trigger in order to be able to receive what you're saying.
That's key right there.
Yeah.
That's key.
Yeah.
So emotional intelligence, people just think, it's being able to relate, agree with your partner. And it's not all about agreeing.
No.
I think what people forget about emotional intelligence is also to be able to articulate to your partner that you validate what they're saying, you acknowledge how they feel.
Right.
However, you don't necessarily agree. And you have to be okay with your partner not seeing things exactly the way that you do.
Exactly.
If it's not a deal breaker, you shouldn't make it one.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we all have our checks.
Yeah, I call it absolute no-nos.
Yeah, absolute no-nos, right?
Yeah.
But then we have we have those are the deal breakers.
Yeah.
But then we have the things that we just prefer. But then we have to do radical acceptance on some things.
Right.
Because we love this person.
Yeah.
And we're not going to let this one little thing that they do mess up something that could be so beautiful. I mean, somebody might snore, might need a CPAP machine. I ain't playing, I'm glad I don't have that issue. But, some men have to use a CPAP machine because it's like a lawnmower.
Yeah.
She got to love him through that. You know what I'm saying? She got to love him through that.
Help him
because
figure
sleep
out.
Deprivation is real. Let me tell you. I love you, baby, but I'm going to have to sleep in
I'm
here.
sleeping in the guest room tonight, and I'll wake you up in the morning. It's cool, good night, love you, and I'm going to go sleep in the other room.
No,
and that's okay.
I know I have had you here for quite some time. I want to ask you, what advice could you give another king that might be going through a season of self-doubt?
Absolutely, 100%. The first thing I would say is accept where you are. You have to be okay exactly where you are. Stop having unrealistic expectations based on what you think other people think. Because 9 times out of 10, what you think other people think is not what they're actually thinking. Like, you're thinking all these thoughts for other people, and they're not thinking what you're thinking, right? So your self-doubt also comes from self-valuing. If you learn to value yourself a little bit more, your self-doubt will go away. So how do you cure valuing yourself more or increase valuing yourself more? You do things that make yourself feel good. Do things that make yourself feel good over and over and over. And it's actually valid things. It's not like fake bullshit things. Like, I feel good just playing basketball. No. Do things that actually make you feel good. And this is how you increase your own value. And now you can relate to somebody else and say, hey, these things actually make me feel good. Now here's the real secret to everything. Never stop growing. If you just never stop growing, that doesn't mean be conceited, doesn't mean be overly selfish, that doesn't mean push people away. It's like, no, once you get to a certain level, you take a certain break, like, okay, I achieved this. All right, what's next? Let me just keep going. And you're never done. You're never done until you're dead. period, point blank. Okay, so all the self-doubt can be beat by self-value, and you only value yourself when you keep moving and you're satisfied with the thing that you're doing.
Well, I love it. I want to thank you
Thank
for
you.
just coming on my couch. I know it could have been so much more we could
Oh, we
talk
go
about.
forever.
Look, we'll mess
Yeah.
around and have a whole series
I'm
sitting
telling
on
you,
this
look
couch.
right
You hear? listen, a good meaty show. I
Yeah.
mean, you dropped some good nuggets.
100%.
So I just want to thank you for your
Thank you
transparency,
for having me. Yeah.
for letting me dig into your mindset.
Yes.
But you also wrote a book.
Mm-hmm.
Tell
Yes,
us the
I did.
title of that book.
So the last book I wrote is Winning the Battle Against Yourself. It's available on Amazon, also on my website as well. This book, and I'm gonna let you know ahead of time, it's a lot. It's very controversial, especially the first chapter. Okay, I go from everything from religion to mindset to body dysmorphia to relationships to understanding self, understanding how to deal with people, and these are all things that I had to deal with. So I learned how to win the battle against myself, face my own demons, and that's how I feel like anybody can overcome anything. Just face yourself. Mm-hmm. There's nobody to compete against except yourself. So if you win the battle against yourself, you win a battle against everybody else and in life.
I always say, the only person I'm in competition with is the woman I was yesterday.
I just want to be better than Rickey. That's what I'm
Yeah.
That's it. I want to be better than Rickey from yesterday.
Yeah.
And I keep on winning.
I want to be able to look back at my stories on Facebook and be like, girl, you sure have grown.
Man, look, I do that. I'm not going to lie. I
when
do
you
that
see your
every
post,
day.
you be
I
like,
look at them
damn,
old
did I
posts like,
really say
like,
that?
I'm over here stuttering, stuff in my teeth and video edits all crappy and stuff. But now it's just like, I just keep growing. I keep getting better. And I'm okay with that. So
that consistency always pays off.
100%.
Always pays off.
Yes.
Now, you also offer personal training as well. You have a website.
Yes. rpgm.us. So
you
at
guys,
Reprogram Us.
Yes. So make sure you guys go check out, find out how you can reprogram, transform, and enlighten with Rickey Getwood Jr. You know, gotta say the Junior.
Gotta say the Junior. Gotta put it in there.
Yes, and I want to remind you guys that we are on multiple platforms. You can find us everywhere. We're on Spotify, Third Coast TV, Radio Public, iHeartRadio. I mean, you can find, if it's a podcast platform, you can find us there. But if you want to be able to join us and watch the show, we want you guys to come on and be a part of the Outside the Box family by coming on over to our YouTube page. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and click that bell notification so you can be notified when a new segment is brought to you. We would love to have you. Make sure you drop some comments. Let us know what you think about tonight's segment when you watch it. And if you yourself are a podcaster and you want to create your own podcast, we have Onney Studios. Make sure you go to www.onneystudios.com or you can contact us at 346-491-5315 and you can bring your vision to fruition today. And if you like this conversation and you want to be on the couch with me and let me get all in your business, we are also casting. You can submit your EPK to otb.liveshow@gmail.com and one of our casting directors will reach back out to you to find out how we can make that happen. I want to thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
For letting me get all in your business.
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't have no other way.
We go way back.
Way
You know what I'm
back.
saying?
Yes,
So
yeah.
I want to give you your flowers just to
Thank
see
you.
the growth,
Yeah.
to see the consistency, to see you happy, to see you glowing.
Yes,
you know, our real friends clap for us when we not watching.
You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying?
Look, let me take a moment to give you your flowers too. And I've seen you grow, and this is one of the reasons. Let me tell you something. I only work with the best. I only work with people who have the same mindset as me, and she been on it for years, which is why I'm back here right now.
Yes, indeed. Well, I thank you for being here with us. I thank you guys for being with us, for coming with us on this journey. You know, I'm always trying something different. I'm always trying to bring relevant topics to us that can inspire, uplift, motivate, and open up our mindset. So thank you again. I thank you guys. Gonna see you same time, same place next week. I'm your girl, Onney, the CEO. You're plugged in, tuned in, tapped in to Outside the Box.